You voted, and here's the results of last week's episode.
What's up, guys? It's Rick here.
And it's Ian, and welcome to our third and final installment of our Campfire Tales series.
That's right, and as always, all you gotta do is pop a squat with us next to the fire and lend us those ear holes.
Disclaimer, we are not responsible for any terror, fear, trepidation, distress, or horror that the following tales may cause you.
Now, to make sure you are totally prepared for this, you're gonna need to grab a few things.
Go ahead and grab yourself a drink, some food, and a blanket.
And now that Mr. Ian is almost completely prepared for this...
Why did you say it like
Let's
that?
begin!
When my friend Todd opened the door, he drew me into a hug. I was going through a transitional phase in my life and I needed help. I inhaled the scent of him, then guiltily pushed away. He handed me a tissue as I started sobbing, explaining how my boyfriend of 6 years, Vaughn, had died recently. I felt responsible. I felt sad, tired, and most of all, alone. And anyone I had tried to talk to about it just didn't understand, and I left them feeling worse than before. I shook my head, a stray tear running down my cheek. I wiped it away. He handed me another tissue and patted my knee. So sweet. I'm alone. I just feel so guilty, I said mournfully. Why? He asked. Again, I shook my head. You wouldn't understand. I just drained him. I wanted too much. Well, what did you want? And what the hell does that mean? He asked. I stood up to throw my tissue away, and I caught a whiff of his cologne as I made my way past him, the scent of masculinity and sweat engulfing me. I love you, Kelly, you know that. I want to do whatever I can to help you, he said. My heart pounded, his eager declaration ringing in my ears. Behind him, I licked my now bared teeth. The fangs still felt awkward in my mouth. I was still changing, and I couldn't control when they popped out. My lack of control had won before, and I was just so hungry. I won't drain him like Vaughn, I thought to myself, easing up behind him. He was sweet. So very, very sweet.
That was beyond creepy.
Yeah, I second that. That was very, very unsettling.
This next one's for those of you sleeping alone tonight.
Tonight is like every other night. You lay there in the dark and silence, alone with no company other than your own thoughts. You shift and roll throughout your bed, just you and your thoughts. You ponder, you plan, you fantasize, anything to distract you from the ringing silence that surrounds you. You hear a creak, a common sound to hear on such a still night, but you still recoil when the sound hits your ears. You hear this sound almost every night, but the sheer unexpectedness sets off a trigger in your head as paranoia takes over. The thoughts that once illuminated your mind are now darkened. What once was pleasure and success is now turned to demons and killers. The silence that your mind has been distracting you from has now become focus. You lay there silent, listening for any obscure sound, hoping that the silence doesn't leave. Every little noise adds to your paranoia, and the silence lingers as you await the next unexpected occurrence. You're too afraid to open your eyes at the thought of seeing anything your mind might conjure. You lay there alone, in fear. The fear builds up in your mind as you try to find a quick escape from anything it creates. You revert back to your childhood solution, hiding under the covers. You pull the blanket over your head and lay in silence. You hear noises, but they don't seem as scary. You figure, if they can't see you, you're safe. The heat builds up under your blanket, but you put up with it simply for the comfort that it provides. You begin to calm down and relax and revert to your usual logical self. It's just you and your thoughts again, alone, under your blanket. You think of how silly it was to get so scared and worked up over a silly little noise. Eyes closed, you lift the blanket off your face as the built-up heat is released. You breathe a sigh of relief and roll over, only to hear a deep, grating voice whisper, "Oh, there you are," as the sounds of footsteps creeps towards your bed.
You know what I just realized? I live alone, and I have to go home at some point tonight. So, Ian, do you want to have a sleepover?
No, I'm actually having company tonight.
What is... Who, your imaginary friend?
Yeah, he keeps me safe.
It was time for a talk. Tom Taylor's son Jeremy was 7 years old and still had an imaginary friend named Bo. Neither Tom nor his wife Sarah thought anything of it when he was younger. Lots of kids in his age group have imaginary friends, and that phase usually ends when children start school. This wasn't the case for Jeremy. While they were pretty sure he didn't let on about Bo at school, at home he would spend hours in his room talking to his imaginary friend. After doing some research and contacting some online sources, the Taylors felt the time was right to talk to their son about Bo. They had gotten past Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, but it was time for Jeremy to move beyond imaginary friends and into the real world. Tom and Sarah called Jeremy down from his room, and they sat around the kitchen table.
"You know, Jeremy," Tom began, "lots of kids have imaginary friends when they were little. It's perfectly normal. But as they grow older, they make real friends. Most kids stop talking to the make-believe ones."
Sarah put her hand on Jeremy's shoulder.
"It's not like you're doing anything wrong talking to Bo, but there comes a time when we have to let go of our childish habits. Do you understand what we're saying?" I think so. But what if Bo doesn't want to go?"
Tom and Sarah smiled at each other.
"Just tell him he needs to be friends with another little boy," she said. "I'm sure he'll understand." "Oh, okay," he said, not acting entirely convinced. "I'll talk to him."
Jeremy went upstairs, and the two started preparing dinner.
"That went better than I thought it would," said Tom. "Yeah, I'm surprised. We'll see what Bo has to say."
A short while later, they heard Jeremy's familiar footsteps on the stairway. He came into the kitchen to make his announcement.
"I talked to Bo and he's leaving." "Jeremy, that's great news. And the best thing is, he's taking all of us with him," as he strikes a match. "What do you mean?" Tom asked.
As the sudden heavy stench of gas filled the air around them.
Woo! Spooky stuff. Well, can't believe we did it. We made it through 10 of these stories, and we did it so quickly.
But let's not forget that we did it with the help of our online friends, and we could not do it without them. And not to mention, you guys are also our online friends.
Yes, thank you so much. So don't forget, comment, let us know what you think of the stories, and also subscribe and like the video.
And as always, you keep looking out.
And we'll keep looking in
To the
abyss.
Oh, God. That is fucking